All right, so the situation stands like this, that you are seated in your office. It's a busy day. You have been working quite rigorously on a project, and suddenly there is an email that pops up in your inbox. You eagerly open the email, and when you read the contents, you're absolutely shocked because in that email, you find that the person who has sent you the email has accused you of non-performance or has written something in a way that is absolutely disturbing. Basically, this is what we call as a stinker email in the corporate world. Now, obviously, when you receive a stinker email like that, nobody enjoys reading it. Unfortunately, not many people know how do we handle a stinker email. And that is the subject of discussion that we are going to talk about in this video. So what do we do when we receive an email like this? So there are a few things that need to be done the right way to ensure that you don't end up in unnecessary trouble, although it's not your mistake in the first place. So how do we go about it? So there are 6 simple steps that you can follow to ensure that your email response is up to the mark and professional. So what do you do? Number 1, whenever you receive a stinker email, read it twice, bare minimum twice. Now, why is that important? Because many a times we just skim through an email. We just look at some important contents according to our context, which unfortunately may not give us the complete picture. So if you read certain things which are disturbing, which are shocking, sometimes even profane, then perhaps it will trigger unnecessary reaction from your end. So before you end up doing that, it's important that you read the email twice, completely, from the first word to the last word, till the very last full stop. This will ensure that you're actually aware about the contents of the email. Now, once you've read the email, you're in complete sync with what the email is trying to tell you. Now, as you read this email, because it is shocking, it is disturbing, it will trigger a lot of negative emotions. So step number 2 is to observe your emotions. Now, why is that important? It's important to identify how is the email making you feel. Is it making you feel anxious? Is it making you feel outright angry? Is it making you feel frustrated? It's important to identify these emotions. Now, once you're aware about your emotions, there comes step number 3, which is to take an immediate break. Now, what do I mean by taking a break? Break does not mean you just shut down your laptop and go home. That's not what I'm talking about. Break means you get up from your seat physically, walk around, and mull over what you just read. Sometimes shifting yourself from the physical location where you're previously seated to a completely new environment can give you the time to think and respond in a different manner altogether. So maybe a cup of tea or coffee or a glass of juice might be helpful to go along with it, but make sure that you get up from your seat and walk. When you walk, you can think better rather than just seated at one place and simmering in anger, which might only be counterproductive. So take a few moments, take a few deep breaths, and reflect upon what you just read. Now, once you've taken a break, you have relaxed, you've calmed down, and then you come back to your seat. This time, you start drafting the email. But how many emails do you draft? 2 emails. Now, why do we do that? So step number 4 is you need to create 2 drafts of email. When you do this, you'll be able to identify that one of those drafts is better than the other. In what sense is it better? It is better in terms of the overall look and feel, tonality, and professionalism, which is step number 5, is that when you create 2 drafts of email, compare those emails in terms of professionalism and tonality. Now, out of these 2, you select one and you prefer sending the one which is more professional in its appeal or the tonality is better. Now, why is this important to create those 2 drafts? Because that gives you a fair idea to compare one in comparison to the other. So step number 4 is to create 2 drafts, and step number 5 is to ensure professionalism and tonality in your email. And then finally, you send it through. But sometimes it's okay not to send an email. Now, what does that mean? Sometimes all you need to do is to pick up the phone and talk to the person who has sent you an email. And perhaps when you talk, you might want to ask a few questions. Hey, I just received an email from you, and according to my understanding, it seems that you're very upset with me. And therefore, I just wanted to be double sure about what you wanted to say here, right? So you may not respond to an email only through an email. Sometimes just picking up the phone and clearing the air is a great way to go about it. Now, why is this important? Especially in the corporate world, email communication is considered to be evidence in itself. It's a written record of what you've mentioned in the email, and it stays there in the official records forever. So even if you haven't been the one who has made a mistake, the kind of language that you use, the kind of tonality that you use, especially if you're sending that email to a superior or a client, then it could backfire big time. So it's important that you restrain your emotions and use an email only when absolutely mandatory. If it's not mandatory for you, then pick up the phone, talk to the other person, clear the air, and ask the other person, would you still want me to respond to your email, or would this phone call suffice? Yeah. So step number 6 could either be sending an email after you have done the thorough professional check, or you could just pick up the phone and dial the other person. So those are 6 critical steps that you need to follow whenever you encounter a stinker email. So here are the 6 steps once again for you. Step number 1 is to read your email twice. Be double sure about the contents before you do anything else. Step number 2, observe your emotions. How are you feeling at this particular point in time? Are you feeling frustrated, angry, feeling lost, anxious, whatever it is? Once you identify your emotions, take a quick break. Get up physically from your seat, take a walk, have a cup of tea, coffee, or juice, and then come back to your seat. Step number 4, create 2 drafts of email and then compare those drafts. And while you compare those, identify which one is better than the other. And that takes us to step number 5, which is to check for professionalism and tonality of your email. You do not want to get caught on the wrong foot. And then the final step, you send the email, or if not required, you could simply pick up the phone and talk to the concerned person and clear the air once and for all. So those are the 6 steps that you need to follow if you want to ensure that even when you respond to a stinker email, you maintain your dignity, self-respect, and most importantly, the professionalism that is expected from a corporate professional today. So follow the 6 steps and do let me know, how does that help you? I hope and I sincerely believe that this is going to keep you in good stead. So all the best the next time you're about to communicate in your corporate communication.